there's one right there. There's a fish. He feels pretty good on that persuader spinnerbait. There's one. Oh, he's a good one. Oh yeah, that's a good fish, folks. That's the way to start my day, right there. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Come on, baby. Those are the kind of fish you catch on them persuader spinnerbaits. No, 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 no. Come here. Ah, yeah. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to Lake Pleasant. Wind-blowing day and a beautiful chunky bass. Just a beautiful bass. We'll let her go. I would have to say it had to be back somewhere in the mid-90s. I was fishing an all-star team tournament here with a buddy of mine, Reese Simpson, and this time of year, fishing for the championship, we almost won it. We had opportunities, and this is what we had opportunities on, was a bank like this. It's got some trees on the outside of it, and throwing that good old spinnerbait. Let me tell you something. This is a 1/2 ounce persuader spinnerbait, double willow leaf with silver blades. I love this bait. It's got a good throb to it. You can feel the vibration really coming through the water, and I've tipped it with a little grub so it looks like a little tail in the water from maybe a shad. So I'm trying to imitate the shad, but when you have wind-blown days like this, this is the kind of bait that you need to be throwing. You'll catch a lot of fish on it. You can cover a lot of water with it, and get on those wind-blown banks and throw this bait, because I'll tell you what, you'll catch some fish on it. There's giant fish to be had on spinnerbaits. I very rarely ever go out and not catch at least a good fish on a spinnerbait. It's just, it doesn't happen. This bait is known for being a great big fish catcher, you know. All I'm doing is throwing it on the bank, and I'm just reeling it slow, you know, and let it bump. The reason why I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce is when it gets a little bit windy and I'm sitting here in 20, 30 foot of water off some of these ledges, I want that bait to fall a little bit deeper than it would as a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce. I want to get it down there where the fish aren't used to seeing a spinnerbait all the time. You know, I'm really slow rolling this thing. A lot of guys would cover water like crazy, and I'm covering a lot of water still, but I'm slow rolling the bait. The grub actually allows it to fall a little bit slower, but it also gives it that action, that tail action that I think triggers a strike once in a while off the fish if they're following it. They see that tail flipping on the back, it looks alive. If it looks alive, and when they get it, it feels alive, you know, they'll eat that thing. But it's all about covering just a little bit of water early in the morning. Great bait to start with on any of our Arizona lakes, let me tell you. You know, one thing you gotta think about when you go fishing, and I know a lot of guys don't like to go out in this wind. We got 10 mile an hour, 15 mile an hour winds today. You want to make sure it's safe to go out, obviously. You don't want hurricane force winds, but here's the deal. It's really important to get out and throw that spinnerbait in this wind. And actually the fish usually hit better with the wind. It creates current, it creates oxygen, and it also, in this clearer water that we have at Lake Pleasant, it kind of hides the fish a little bit. They're not nearly as spooky on windy days as they would be on clear, calm days. So they get up in the shallows a lot better. So in saying that, you know, you can get out and catch a lot of fish on these breezy days, and something else that'll help you a ton. You know, you're so used to spot fishing on a lake that you've lived on or live around. Now, I've been fishing this lake for years. I don't live down here, but I've been fishing this lake a long time, and I've probably covered every piece of water on this lake. But in saying that, a lot of times we like to go to spots that we've had a lot of success on. But when you have wind, when you're throwing a spinnerbait, you want to find wind-blown banks where the wind is crashing in on the bank a little bit. That's a good place to start, you know? And you might find new water just by finding those windy banks that you're not used to fishing all the time. And that fish that we just caught, I haven't fished that since the mid-90s in that area, but the wind was blowing in on the bank, and it seemed like a good spot to start. So, you know, don't forget about little things like that. The wind, make wind your friend, because, you know, fishing can be good when the wind's blowing, and sometimes it can even be better than on a calm day. Just got bit. Got him. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Had to get out here on some of these islands. A little bit better drop shot bass right there, folks. It got calm on us. Come on, buddy. Look at that fish. Beautiful little Lake Pleasant bass. I'll tell you what, when the going gets tough, you'd be amazed how well these islands do sometimes out here on this lake. When the lake gets low like this, it has good fish like that. Look at that, son. Yeah, because they don't get hammered a lot. That's awesome. That's an awesome fish, come on. For this lake, and for what we've been doing, that reaction bite went right down the tubes. Oh, come on, buddy. Ah, there we go, a nice, decent little drop shot bass right there. You know, it's almost inevitable when the fishing gets tough on these Arizona lakes that drop shot always pulls it out, you know. Gets us some nice fish. It's a good tournament keeper here too. You know, it's been a tough day today. The fish haven't been blasting on top. We tried some topwater early this morning and couldn't make it happen. See you, buddy. And caught that one on a spinnerbait and had another bite, but just really couldn't get it going this morning as far as the spinnerbait bite goes. But that's something that's really important about fishing a lake like Lake Pleasant or any of our Arizona lakes. That morning bite is very key to catch maybe a big fish, a good quality fish, so I highly recommend going after those reaction fish. When it starts to slow down and you're not getting bit anymore and you have to catch those fish, you know, that's when I pull out the drop shot and I start getting serious about, hey man, we got to slow down and work the chunk rock. You can see what we have here on this little island. See this chunk rock? Crawdads in there, man. They're going to eat those crawdads and really get on top. So you can see where the birds are, the ducks. If the ducks are there, the crawdads are there, so that's a good sign. I got to tell you what I'm throwing. My Arizona custom baits. This is a light oxblood curltail worm. And I want that because look how beautiful that is. It's got a little red flake in it. Beautiful worm. And it's a 4.5-inch worm. But it gets the job done. These baits are really soft, and what'll end up happening a lot of times is when the fish flares its gills and inhales the bait, man, they'll feel how soft that is, and they'll just hang on to it really good. They hang on to that worm really good. And it's got, one thing I love about these worms being soft like this is when you're drop shotting, it's really flimsy down there, so it has a lot of action. So when I'm pulling on the drop shot a little bit, not only does the tail get a little action, the curl tail, but the worm itself does this in the water and it looks alive. And it's an awesome worm to throw, let me tell you. Love these baits. Oh, those are some nice bass right there. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, come on. Are you kidding me right now? Oh, I gotta throw that topwater Rico. Oh, got that one. Little Rico bass. He's not a giant, but he's a fish, he'll work. See him blasting like that, you gotta, oh man, there's a bunch underneath him. A bunch. Look at that. Folks, when you start seeing them blasting in the evenings, you gotta have your Rico ready. That's all I'm gonna say. Gotta take advantage of the little opportunities you get when you start seeing them busting. Oh, it's a striper. Look at that. Oh, there's a big old largemouth bass with him. And I got the striper on that little dipper. Now, folks, that's a pretty good little Lake Pleasant bass striper bass. Okay, now we know there's striper and bass blowing up in here. What I did was I picked up my little dipper. After watching all that blow up, you gotta be prepared. We're watching little tiny fry, minnow, bait, you know, skimming across the top of the water. Threw the Rico out there, caught one on that. Now I just caught one on this bait. And that little dipper is a lot of fun to throw. And I'm trying to make it look exactly like a little minnow that's just kind of coming across the top of the water. See how I'm V'ing it? That's what happens when a lot of these shad get singled out. They sit on top, they run across the top of the water. The bass and the striper come up and just kill it. We're in a good little area. What's really cool about this area is it's got a little neck in it, a funnel per se, and the fish are corralling them in here and they're not moving. So what we do is basically sit out here, we drop shot, we throw topwater, and we throw these little baits like this and see if we can't get them to come up and bite. Got him, got that one. On that ice jig. Be real curious to see what we got here because there's striper and bass down there. Oh, it's a nice largemouth. Nice old largemouth, look at that. Oh yeah! Little spoon bass, look at that folks. Barely got it hooked in the mouth. Look at that. You know, if you belly hold a fish like that, a lot of times they'll just hold right there for you. But there you go, we were wondering what was down there, that's what's down there. I picked up my ice jig in the same area we just caught the Rico bass and all those fish. Let's see if we fired some fish up here. They are just down there crushing shad. You know, a lot of times when you're fishing all day and you don't see them busting, doesn't mean they're not busting down below. If you can find that spoon bite, whoo, boy, it can sure get fun. You know, you can see the fish on the bottom, you can see all the stuff down there, and you can see them streaking. There's quite a bit of fish down there, a little bit of activity. Not quite schooled up like I'd like to see them, obviously. You can see my jig coming up and down. You can actually see the little line coming up, and you can see it on the graph, and you can tell that that's my jig, and I'm on some stuff. That there could be a little brush, so I'm gonna move out just a little bit. I wanna make sure I hit the right spot. I was in about 25 foot of water, and we'll find some fish there. There we go, 25 feet. I'll just bump the trolling motor real slow to get to the point where I want to be, left or right. You don't want to hit your trolling motor real fast. You don't want to have it on 10 or something like that because you want to be able to watch your spoon fall. So you're kind of moving through here kind of slowly. Now fish are going to move in and out. Just because you caught a spoonfish right now and you throw back down there and all of a sudden they're gone and you're trying to find that exact same spot, it's really not going to happen a lot of times. This has been a bonus for us because this is kind of, like I said, a runway for them. So it's a lot easier to find them this way. But a lot of times you got to keep up with the fish. You got to find them. Keep up with the trolling motor, move slow, find where they're chasing the shad. The shad aren't going to sit there still. And so you're going to have to move around just a little bit here and there to find where those fish are sitting. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, like I said, one thing that's really important with this ice jig that I think will help you catch more fish is you want to take out of the package the ice jig and just kind of spread your hook out just a little bit, not a bunch. You don't want to hurt the hook and you don't want to break it, but you want to spread it to where it's in an upward motion just a little bit, and it helps when you're pulling up and down to get a better hook in that fish. Just see how it's kind of pointed up now? You still have the barb on it, don't hurt the barb. But if you poke them up just a little bit, you got a better chance of hooking those fish and keeping them on there when they eat this thing. That's my tip of the week. It's in about 25, 26 foot of water. A lot of times what I'll do when I see those kind of fish is just kind of reel up to them, but I kind of pull it up. Let's see, there goes my bait, boom. Okay, they followed the bait down. Followed the bait down. I'm gonna let them follow it the rest of the way down. Look at all those fish right there. Let it fall all the way down. Boom, we're down. we're down in them. And what you do is pop the bait up just a little bit. Sometimes you have to just bring it up real slow, and then there's times they'll pop it right as you bring it up. Got him. Got that one, he hammered it. That's a good fish. That's a good fish. Let's hope we don't lose him. Let him fight. I might have foul hooked that fish. That's what it feels like. They're down there deep in that 26 foot. We're bringing him up. Oh, it's a big largemouth. He ate that bait. Look at that, folks. Little spoon bass. Get up here. That's what I'm talking about, son. That's the kind of fish you're looking for. Little spoon bass. That's a nice jig fish right there. Let me turn this boat around. Golly, they're right there. That's okay, we'll catch them. We gotta turn the boat around so you can get a good view of this fish. I'm using a medium action taipan rod, and it's very important that you use something that's got a little bit of tip to it so you don't pull that treble hook out of their mouth. These are the kind of fish that hang down there when you see the little ones busting. Beautiful fish. Caught him on this ice jig. Got him. Good one. Good one. Oh, don't you jump. Don't you jump. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. There you go. That's what I'm talking about right there. You just keep working it and working it and working it until you get them. Just like so. Yeah, look at that. They're down there, folks. I'll tell you what, ice jig fishing, Lake Pleasant. We've had a good day today. We caught some spinnerbait fish on that Persuader spinnerbait. Good times to use that in the morning. A lot of fun when that wind's blowing. Calmed down, we went to that drop shot using the Arizona custom baits, and I'll tell you what, that oxblood red flake with the curl tail on it, what a bait. 4.5 inch. And then of course the Rico, when you see them busting, always have that Rico handy. And then of course we went to the ice jig, and we've had a lot of fun. And you know, sometimes you got to throw a little bit of everything at them, and that's what we did today. You know, most people would call it junk fishing. I call it trying to find wherever the fish are. Find those shad, you'll find the fish, especially in the fall. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.